For some, life is fleeting, a period of time without any inherent meaning. It came into existence at some point and continues to persist. Yet, within this span of life, a small portion is allotted to each of us. We call it a lifetime. We all know how a lifetime passes. One day we are born, one day we die. The time between birth and death is our share in life, but we have no knowledge of what happens before we are born or after we die. Here, we are faced with a question. What is the meaning of all this? If we do not comprehend the mystery of our beginning, how can we understand the purpose of our existence? Without knowing where we came from, the question of why are we here remains unanswered. And if we live without knowing where our end will lead, how can we claim that every step we take today, every decision we make, carries real significance? Perhaps the tragedy of the human mind lies precisely here. We search for meaning, yet the universe itself may never intend to provide an answer. It is this uncertainty, this lack of clarity about both our past and our future, that has prompted humanity to ponder the question, what is the meaning of life? Humanity has never been able to provide an objective answer to this question, but many of us have found solace in various ideologies, if only to alleviate this unease, even slightly. In fact, these ideologies are largely tied to religions. According to many religions, there is a higher power that created the universe. This power placed us in the world, and based on what we do here, it will determine how and where our eternal life will unfold. For others, the meaning of life is found in the love we share with friends, family members, and those we care about. Some even consider the very act of existing as reason enough to live. But for nihilists, life has no meaning at all. Every action, every effort, every joy or sorrow, everything is meaningless and empty. This is nihilism, that is, believing in nothing. Interestingly, many of us encounter nihilistic thoughts at some point in our lives. A sense of purposelessness emerges in our minds. We begin to feel that nothing in life has meaning anymore. We become disenchanted with everything. It's as if none of us has inner values, goals, or desires. Do you know when this usually happens? It occurs when you start moving away from the beliefs of your parents, before any personal religious or philosophical views have formed, while new ideas about the world are just beginning to take shape. On one hand, you question your old beliefs. On the other hand, you lack the resources to grasp new ones. And usually, all of this starts with a simple question. Why? This word, made up of only 3 letters, has the power to strip even the strongest of human values away. Nihilism represents the deepest level of the question, why? As a person uncovers a new why, behind every answer, it feels as though meaning itself is being stripped away, ultimately leading to a void. Every value, every belief, every purpose is questioned, and in the end, all appear relative. As one follows questions like, why do we live? Why do we do good? Why do we believe? The answers gradually lose their significance. In the end, only silence remains, because at the deepest point of nihilism, both questions and answers become meaningless. Even all scientific discoveries still cannot fully answer the question, why? For a nihilist, the conclusion is simple. There is no why. No answer exists. There is simply nothing. The French writer Albert Camus once said, "The most serious philosophical question is whether to commit suicide." This statement, in fact, captures the essence of nihilism beautifully. Nihilism asks the most radical question about the meaning of life. If everything ultimately ends in the same void, then why should we live? The word nihilism comes from the Latin nihil, meaning nothing, and Ism, meaning ideology, literally, the idea of nothingness. But nihilism is not just a concept. It is a crisis that arises in the depths of human consciousness. It is not the philosophy of nothingness, but the silence that emerges in the relentless search for meaning. We all know pessimistic people around us. This raises a question. Are pessimists nihilists? In reality, people often confuse nihilism with pessimism, but they are entirely different. Pessimists expect the worst. Their worldview is hopeless, and they focus more on the negative aspects of life because they believe that, in the end, evil will prevail. This is what sets them apart from nihilists. Pessimists acknowledge that goodness exists in the world. They just do not believe that humans can fully realize it. Nihilists, on the other hand, believe in nothing at all. Nihilists do not believe that the world is either good or bad, because the concepts of good and bad are inventions of the human mind. For a nihilist, the world simply exists, without any purpose, value, or direction. For example, consider a painting. An optimist might say it is beautiful. A pessimist might say it is dark and meaningless. But for a nihilist, the painting is neither beautiful nor meaningless. It is merely a random arrangement of colors. Life is similar. We attach meanings to it, but it gives none in return. Full or empty, right or wrong. All these labels are merely human-created illusions. Nihilism gradually dismantles these illusions, one by one. This is why it is a mistake to confuse nihilism with cynicism or apathy. Cynicism critiques the world. Apathy turns away from it. But nihilism simply observes and says, "There was no inherent value here. We were the ones who created it." Cynics view the world with deep suspicion. They believe that every human action is ultimately driven by self-interest. No one is truly altruistic or purely well-intentioned. We are all actors playing for our own benefit. To cynics, human nature is untrustworthy and often riddled with deception. Interestingly, this perspective also implies the existence of good. It's just that cynics believe humans are incapable of fully achieving it. For nihilists, however, the situation is entirely different. In their world, there is neither good nor bad. These concepts themselves are empty, nothing more than classifications created by the human mind. For a nihilist, morality, values, and purpose are merely collective illusions. Life, in their view, is a process devoid of inherent meaning. Apathetic people behave differently. They may believe that life has meaning, but they simply do not care. For them, the issue is not meaninglessness, but indifference. Nihilism presents a completely different perspective. It asserts that there is no plan, no purpose, and no divine direction in the universe. In its view, there is nothing to believe in, and for this reason, everything appears meaningless. Yet this idea immediately leads us to a paradox. If you say, "I believe in nothing," you are, in fact, already believing in that nothing. In other words, even when claiming not to believe, a form of belief is still created. At this moment, nihilism contradicts itself because it promotes belief in nothing, yet to believe is no longer nothing. Unlike other philosophical movements, nihilism did not initially emerge as a school of thought, but rather as a literary and cultural current. Later, it transitioned into philosophy and branched into various directions. As a result, its boundaries are not clearly defined. Each thinker has explained it in slightly different ways. Throughout history, many forms of nihilism have emerged. For example, political nihilism argues that all political, religious, and social institutions must be destroyed for society and humanity to achieve true freedom. There is also ethical nihilism, which denies the existence of universal and immutable moral values. In other words, concepts of good and evil are merely human agreements, not objective truths. In this way of thinking, the concepts of good and bad are merely artificial constructs created by society. They do not exist in reality itself, but are the result of human agreement. If a person truly wishes to be free, they should not be bound by these rules, because freedom cannot fit into frameworks defined by others. This perspective leads to the idea that we can do whatever we want, because if objective values do not exist, then violating them is impossible. Next comes existential nihilism. It accepts that life itself has no inherent meaning or purpose. This is the most widespread form of nihilism, and it is the one we will primarily focus on in this video. For the existential nihilist, the state, religion, morality, and social rules are merely illusions, all systems created to hide human fears. Supporters of existential nihilism ask the question, if I am punished the moment I break these rules, how am I truly free? This question reveals the greatest paradox at the heart of nihilism, a constant tension between freedom and responsibility, meaninglessness and existence. Or are we merely trapped within the invisible boundaries created by our own thoughts? We believe we are free, yet in reality, we are prisoners of the illusions we ourselves have created. The French philosopher Albert Camus once offered an analogy. A human search for meaning in life is like the suffering of Sisyphus, who endlessly pushes a boulder up a mountain. We lift the boulder to the summit, only for it to roll back down, and then we lift it again. An infinite cycle. Camus argued that we must accept this meaningless cycle, and, despite it, continue to live. This touches the deepest point of nihilism. Why do we live by these rules, within these systems? Why do we believe that one life is more valuable than another? Perhaps all these beliefs exist merely to cover the void, a way to suppress the fear of meaninglessness within us. Imagine for a moment, all scientific discoveries, all cultural monuments, all struggles for human rights. Perhaps all of this is as insignificant as a speck of dust in the face of the infinite universe. In the end, everything fades. Everything is forgotten. Maybe instead of trying to understand the chaos of reality, we should simply make peace with it, or even smile at it. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this paradox very well. He regarded nihilism as both a danger and an opportunity. In his view, all human values and what we call truth are nothing more than collective illusions. When he said, "God is dead," he did not mean religion itself, but rather humanity's loss of its own moral foundations. No one could tell us anymore what was good or bad, which was both frightening and liberating. But Nietzsche also warned, if humans do not fill this void with new values, nihilism will eat away at civilization from within. Meaning will be replaced by indifference, purpose by emptiness. As he said, he who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. A river that has reached its flow, a metaphor, silent yet infinitely deep. Civilizations are similar. When once vibrant cultures, belief systems, and ideas run dry, nothingness gradually seeps into the remaining void. History has shown us time and again that when a people lose their sense of meaning, chaos takes its place. The Roman Empire, the Mayan civilization, even ancient Babylon, all faced the same fate. When ideals die, society dies too. Now imagine this. If everything is relative, if good and bad are merely language games or social agreements, how can we claim that acts like oppression, war, and genocide are objectively wrong. If the universe gives us no moral guidance, where do we derive these values from? Why do we feel pain when we see a child cry, yet cannot fully explain that feeling? Nietzsche feared precisely this abyss. He saw that with the death of God, humans would lose not only religion, but all moral foundations. Then the question of why would remain unanswered. Values would collapse, purposes would vanish, and a storm of meaninglessness would sweep across the earth. What he feared most was that in a world filled with meaninglessness, humans could justify any cruelty, any destruction, as right. But Nietzsche also saw hope. He believed that the collapse of old values was not an end, but a beginning. For only upon ruins can a new temple be built. He introduced the idea of the Übermensch, the overman or beyond human, a being who, after the destruction of old values, creates their own meaning and lives as a morally free individual. Today, when we look at social media, we can see how true his words are. Everyone has their own truth, their own rightness, but no one shares a common value. Morality is measured by trends, and virtue is determined by algorithms. Humanity has entered the same cycle again. We lose meaning, yet still try to appear meaningful. Perhaps the void Nietzsche feared now lives within us, but we constantly make noise to avoid seeing it. Consider this. The religion that once defined the voice of morality has fallen silent, and the voices of ancient beliefs are gradually fading. People dismantle old rules and replace them with their own truths, their own meanings. We have now reached a point where even the most controversial, the most morally questionable actions inevitably find their defenders. Everyone says, "This is my choice. I have the right." And here lies the question, do we really? If no universal moral measure remains, on what basis can anyone call something wrong? Humanity is moving this line forward, step by step. There will come a point when the concepts of right and wrong will completely dissolve. No one will be able to criticize another because there will be no standard left for comparison. Shakespeare foresaw this centuries ago. He wrote, "Life is a shadow, a brief actor striding across the stage, then silent, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." Perhaps he saw long ago the state humanity finds itself in today, a world full of noise, yet increasingly empty in meaning. If life truly has no meaning, and if our existence has no ultimate purpose, then perhaps our answer shouldn't be to fight the void, but to create our own meaning within it. Maybe life is nothing more than a blank canvas, unpainted and untouched. But instead of falling into despair at the sight of it, you can pick up the brush and paint whatever picture you desire. No one can tell you which colors are right or wrong, because the canvas is yours, the colors are yours, and life itself rests at the tip of your brush. We are given only one canvas, for a painting that can be created only once. What kind of picture you choose to paint on it is entirely up to you. Maybe the only true meaning of life is simply to live. And to live, everyone, without exception, finds their own reason.